Hey y'all, it is Chris with Rockin Farm, and I am out in the garden right now, and I'm just watering the entire garden by hand with a spray nozzle. I'm totally doing this because I want to. Okay, that's a bald-faced lie. It's not that I dislike watering my garden. I really enjoy watering my garden, but I want to water my garden when I want to water my garden, and that's the whole reason I went through and I put in a drip irrigation system. So why I'm out here watering with a hose and a spray nozzle? Well, not because I want to today. I have other things I should be doing, but the garden does need some water, and I'm kind of a moron. So y'all might remember that I put together a little video last week. It was one of the hashtag YouTube shorts, and in that particular video, I mentioned that I had let the animals' water freeze. And, we found a really quick solution to that. So we had a couple of more freezes after that particular night. But on that particular night, that first night when I neglected to do anything about the brass four-way splitter, and we did end up having our hose bib freeze up. So then we had to carry water from the house over to the animals to give them water the next morning. But I was so concerned about the animals and so concerned about the animals' water that I didn't even think about my garden. And I didn't think about my garden because this time of year, we're not in the garden a whole lot. So the problem did not lie in the fact that my garden doesn't have a freeze plan. It does. My irrigation system in my garden has a freeze plan. I was very, very, very happy with myself when I put together the freeze plan for my garden. The freeze plan for my garden consists of a valve that sits down at the lowest end of my garden. There's absolutely no higher elevation in the garden. All of my garden boxes and all of my garden pipes slope back towards the system itself. Now, don't get all up in an uproar about backflow prevention. I have a backflow preventer over at the water source. So that fancy little valve, when I turn off water supply to my irrigation system and then open that valve, that allows all of the water in the system to drain out of the system. In addition to that, the other part of my freeze security plan is that I go around and actually open up all of the valves in the entire garden. Because that way, if there's any air vacuums that are trapping water in the lines, that should release it. So the water can drain out of the PVC pipe, and then water can also just drain out of the black poly hose. The system kind of fills with air, and the vast majority of the water goes away. But even what water doesn't go away, when it freezes, it's not freezing up against anything. It's not like a whole mass of water. There's enough air in there that it can freeze in a linear motion rather than having to expand out. Well, I was so concerned about water for the animals that I just didn't think about the garden. We're not in the garden a whole lot this time of year. We come out and check on things. We come out and water things, but I'm not watering every day anymore, y'all. I'm watering once a week, once every 10 days, and that's if we didn't get any rain in there. So it's just not getting as much water, so it's not getting as much visual attention. So we got down to about 29 degrees, not even what most people would consider a hard freeze, but the chaos was real. So I came through and I fixed a bunch of the valves that were very obviously broken. Anywhere that you see a red valve as I walk around here, it's a valve that was busted. And when I say busted, I'll also show you some of the pieces that are laying on the ground, as you can see here. So I came out right now to pressurize the system for two reasons. Number one, I replaced everything that I knew was obviously broken, all the stuff that you just saw with the red valves and all the broken PVC laying on the ground. I pressurized it to make sure that my new glue joints were holding. I also pressurized it so I could come out here with the garden hose and do some watering. And I pressurized it to make sure I didn't miss anything. Maybe something that was cracked but wasn't obviously broken and I just couldn't visually see it. Sure enough, we missed some stuff. So over here on the asparagus, we are just spraying like nuts. So I'm gonna try and hurry up and water the garden, which means I gotta set down the phone and stop filming. And then once I've got the water or the garden watered, then I'll turn off the water to the system and again release the pressure. Cut that valve out, replace it with a new valve, and then I need to start going through and stubbing in all the new PVC. So you all saw that just so that I could get the system up and running and use the valves that are operational and use the hoses, I just cut it off and stuck a new valve and closed the valve. So now that it's been curing for about 48 hours, I decided to come pressure test the system, found this new leak. So obviously I need to put a new valve here, and then I need to go back to all the other places where there's just a valve sitting there and rerun the actual irrigation pipe into the garden. So, I mean, it wasn't too expensive of a mistake. PVC pipe is cheap. I had a bunch laying around anyhow. Fittings are expensive. And I did have to go get about 65 bucks, 70 bucks worth of fittings. So, plus this time I decided to go with higher grade stuff. You know, instead of getting the stuff that you can get at your big box store, I actually went to an irrigation supplier, opened an account, and kind of paid up for the parts because I knew I was going to be getting higher quality, thicker plastic, you know, more freeze resistant, more heat resistant parts. So anyhow, hard lesson learned, y'all. I mean, we talk about lessons on the homestead all the time. And again, I designed this system specifically so that I wouldn't have to worry about freezing. I put a freeze plan into place, but on that night I didn't put it into action, and it cost me about $65, $70, and several hours of my time. So yet another mistake made on the homestead, another hard lesson learned, and hopefully not one that I do again. If we're gonna freeze, take care of the animals, take care of the garden. So I need to get back to watering. I need to get back to repairs. Until I see y'all again, this has been Chris, showing you that I'm a goofball with Rockin' Farm, and I want you all to be happy and live healthy.